Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Candice. Today we're in our Keepers at Home series. We're going to be giving some information on stay-at-home moms versus nannies, having a nanny come in versus sending a child to daycare, and what that looks like on the inside, like of daycares and nannying. But first we are going to pray for this video and then we'll dive right in. God, thank you for a beautiful day. Please bless whoever is listening to this video, them and their children and their families, future children, future families, whoever is watching, whatever situation they're in. I pray that you would give them the information you want them to have through this video, so that way they can make wise decisions concerning their own families, and that this information would be a blessing to them. And it would give them an insider perspective that they might not have heard otherwise. I ask that you would use my mouth to give them this information. Help me remember anything you want me to say. I ask these things in Jesus Christ's name. Okay. Sorry, guys. Always get a little itchy when I do these videos. Don't know why. Okay. We're going to start, of course, by saying that God loves children. God references us as his children in the Bible many, many times. He loves kids. He says kids are a blessing, right? In the modern day and age where people see kids as a inconvenience, shall we say, most of the time, financially as well as just emotionally. But children are a blessing. They bring an incredible ton of life to our lives. They are funny. They are cute. They say the funniest things and ask a million questions, but they are a blessing, right? Not only to their parents, but to the other people around them and in their lives. God also says, that the parents, the people who he gives charge over these children are to train up these children, right? It's their job to be in charge of the children and to give them the knowledge, and to give them the wisdom and the understanding that they need to grow into functioning adults, right? In Proverbs 22:6, it says, train up a child in the way he should go. Let's see, I'm almost there. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. Let's double check and make sure I'm right. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Bam. Proverbs 22:6. So, of course, having children, they need to be trained, they need to be loved on, they need attention and acceptance, and they just need so much, right? And it's a parent's job to make sure that those things are provided for that child, right? So, now I am going to start this by saying that if you are a single mama out there, my goodness, I have so much respect for you. Like, please don't take anything I say in a bad way or like I'm trying to shame you. Single mamas, you do what you gotta do to survive, right? And you do the best with your children. And it's amazing that you can do what you can do being a single parent, okay? Most of this is going to be directed at those who have both mom and dad in the home, right? Like two-parent households where it might be either both parents are working, one's working full-time, one part-time, both full-time, or one's working full-time, one's a stay-at-home mom, okay? You can get information from this no matter which way you're leaning, okay? We're going to go through some different areas and compare the daycare experience versus a nannying experience for your child versus a stay-at-home mom experience for your child. Because, of course, we want what's best for the kids. And so I'm just going to give you a little insider perspective so you guys can have a better understanding of what it actually looks like inside of a daycare and inside of a nannying situation. Oh my goodness, y'all, the itch is real. Ugh. Okay. The first thing we're going to hit is a big deal, right? It's ratios, which is the number of adults per number of children involved. When you are in a daycare setting, okay, each state, like if you're in the United States, each state will have rules on ratios, which is the maximum number of children you can have per single adult worker, okay? Where I'm at, The rule is usually that there is at least one adult per every 6 babies. And I'm talking like babies, y'all. Can you imagine having sextuplets and you're the only adult there to take care of all 6 of them? That's what it's like in the daycare, guys. Okay. There might be other workers, but they have their own set of 6 babies to be watching. Now, some daycares are better on ratios and will have it be like one adult with 3 or 4 babies. But even so, it's still a lot of children per one adult. Okay. So, and as the kids get older, like I know most daycares will go like from birth through like 5 or 6 years old. Okay. So as the children get older, like 2 and up, those ratios get bigger. And it's like one adult per 8 or children 2 and up, or one adult with 10 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, you know. So it is a big ratio. And in those scenarios, of course, the adults, even if they are the type of workers who absolutely love kids and they're there for the right reasons, it is very hard for that adult to tend to all of the needs of all of the children under their care. Simply because there are a lot of kids and you're the only one taking care of them. It's difficult. I mean, even those with the best of intentions are not going to give each child the individual like love and attention and snuggles and whatever else that they need, you know, especially for the babies, because the babies need, you know, the skin-to-skin contact, you know, like the interaction, facial expressions and talking to them, rocking and all the things that they need. It's very hard to do that and meet each and every single child's needs when it's one adult with multiple babies, right? If you think about it this way, when that adult worker is holding your child, there are 3 to 5 other babies that are in swings or in cribs or playing on the floor, right, or on a mat or something. And then when your child gets put down and the next child picks up your child, is then one of the ones that's not getting the attention. It's a fact of life when it comes to daycares, and it's something that I think parents need to be more conscious of. A lot of parents don't seem to understand the ratios, and that the higher the ratio is, the less attention your child is going to get. But that's something that I think really should be addressed. Now, it would be great if the ratios were not so high, kids would get more attention, but again, daycares are made to make money, so they are going to try and have as few workers as they can and get as many kids as they can in there, so they're making a good income and profit. That's how it rolls. Nannying is slightly different, of course, because you are bringing an adult into your home to take care of your children. So it is one adult to however many children you happen to have. This makes the ratio usually a bit better, as most people will have a nanny for, again, children that are somewhere in the daycare age range, usually between birth to 5 or 6 years old. In this case, the children, you know, are getting more attention because there's less of them to the one adult. Stay-at-home mom obviously is the same sort of ratio. It's the stay-at-home mom to however many kiddos she's got, right? When it comes to bonding with the child, okay, in a daycare, you know, children need to be able to bond with the adults that they are closest to, the adults they are spending the most time with, especially when they are infants. You know, they are going to be attached up to like 2 years of age. They definitely need that attachment. It's a part of their development, right? They need to bond with an adult deeply to be able to feel secure and safe, right? And to thrive and all the things in a daycare setting. Because of those high ratios, your child is very unlikely to bond properly with an adult. And there are some daycares that are open from like 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening, and some kids are there from 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening. And when your child is there that long, they really need an adult to bond to be a healthy child, right? And in the setting where you have lots of kids and one adult, your child's not getting that amount of attention, and so it's not going to bond properly. And besides the ratio aspect of it, most daycares do not want your child to be attached to a particular worker. They don't want your child to bond to a particular worker because it is less convenient for them. Simply in the way that daycares are run, like if a child, say, bonds to one particular worker, then it's harder for administration to set the schedules to be like, okay, make sure that worker is there when that child is there. And then if the child is there and the worker is not there, the child might freak out and not do so well with the other workers. So in a daycare setting, their goal is to make sure that your child does not bond with any particular worker over another one, which leads to, workers being shifted between rooms, kids being shifted from this worker to that worker. A lot of the times it causes just a lot of discontent in the children, unfortunately, because it's like you get used to one adult and then, the next couple of days or the next week you're doing another adult. It's not the best for the kids. Let's put it that way. It's not the best for the kids, unfortunately. With nannying, of course, the children would bond with the nanny, and if you plan to have the nanny for a long term, say over a year, your children will bond with that nanny quite well. This, of course, depending on how many hours a day the nanny is with your children may bond with the nanny more than you. If, they're with the nanny at least 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, that's most of the kids' awake time, especially when they're young. They may have naps during the day, but a lot of their awake, they're going to bond with the person who they spend the most awake time with. And if that's with the nanny, you need to be prepared for that, okay? I'm just saying. There's no way to make that not happen. It's not something, of course, that a nanny is going to tell you so much, that, hey, your child's bonded more with me than they have with you, or, hey, your child listens to me a lot better than they listen to you. It's not something a nanny is going to tell you, but simply because it's a fact of life and the nanny does not want to hurt your feelings. Okay? Now, at least in that scenario, the child is bonding with someone, which is good for the child. Okay? Stay-at-home moms, obviously, best case scenario for the child with bonding, they're bonding directly with their parent. Best scenario for them, hands down, in that aspect. Okay? All right, discipline. In a daycare setting, whether it's a daycare run by the state or it's a private Christian daycare, whatever the case may be, there is going to be a set policy usually involved for discipline of your child. Some daycares will do it where they just separate the child from whatever is going on. Say the child hits another child, they're just going to separate the child from that child. Some do timeouts. Some, will call the parent and have the parent talk to the kid. Each place is different. Obviously, in a daycare setting, it's harder to have that discipline stick. You know what I mean? Like, to have it actually change the behavior of the child. Because it's in a setting where, again, there are a few adults, a lot of kids. It's hard as a worker to keep an eye on every single kid at every single moment of the entire day that they're there. Because, again, there's a million things going on, a million kids running around. It's difficult to keep an eye on all the scenarios. I mean, you can turn your head, a worker can turn their head for 2 seconds to take care of a child who needs help pulling their pants back up after coming out of the bathroom, and you got 2 kids behind you going at it, and turn around, oh, now I got to deal with that, so it's easier for kids to get into scenarios that are not good for them. And it's easier, of course, for adults to not catch all of those scenarios or not to be able to discipline them well. Okay, there's also things that happen in daycares. I'm going to say this with as much compassion as I can. There are children in daycares who have been hurt in the past, who maybe had an unhealthy family environment. There are kids who are violent in daycares. Again, it's one thing when it's like babies and they're learning that, oh, this baby's going to take my toy, oh, let me bite them, or try and smack them. When they're babies, it's easy enough to train them to stop doing that. Once you get like 2, 3, 4, 5, and these kids are doing things like smacking other children with a toy. I have seen a child choke another child. There are scenarios that are not as good as they should be, are not as safe as they should be for your child. In a daycare setting, it is the administration's job, whoever's at the top, it's their job to tell the parents what's going on. Sometimes it's not told very well, or it's glossed over what exactly happened. Sometimes there are workers who are not really good at the job or are only there for the paycheck, and so they're not paying that much attention to the kids. And sometimes things can happen without a single adult seeing what's going on. It's an issue, okay? It's something daycares are not going to advertise. It is something they are not going to, tell the parent who's coming to see the daycare and see what it looks like on the inside. But it is a reality that parents need to be aware of, okay? There are going to be other children there who are not raised in the same way that you raise your kids. And those kids may say really horrible things. They may call your kid another name. They may teach your children how to cuss. Or, be physically violent with them at some point. There's no real way to get around it. It's what it is in a daycare setting. And, the daycare workers do the best they can usually to control situations and to separate children that they know are not going to behave well together. But like I said, things still happen. In a nannying scenario, of course, the nanny, if you get a good one, will ask you what your normal discipline scenarios are for your kids, and then your nanny will try to continue on what you do. So like if you do timeouts, your nanny will try and do timeouts. Or if you have consequences set up where like you do this, you lose that, the nanny will try and continue those. So at least in a nannying scenario, the discipline might be slightly more consistent with what you do at home. Of course, it's just going to be your children in the home, so less likely things will happen. And it's going to be, again, the one adult with a smaller ratio, so that adult is more able to keep an eye on all your kids, right? And make sure things stay safe and good for the kids. Now, in regards to discipline with a nanny versus parents, usually the nanny might have different rules than you do, just depending on the family situation. So when I was nannying, I was very, adamant with the kids that they are not allowed to hit me. They were not allowed to hit me. They needed to be respectful. If they were not listening, they would end up with a timeout or something like that. Now this may, again, differ from nanny to nanny, and you really need to understand who your nanny is and have your nanny understand you and build that relationship as adults to make sure that things go the best with the kids in regards to discipline, your expectations for your kids, what rules you have for them, letting the nanny know all these things and having open communication there really helps that be better, just in general. Obviously, stay-at-home mom, it's whatever rules you got going on. You discipline your kids the way you want to, whatever way works best for you and your family. When it comes to teaching the children, because of course, people think of teaching as school-age kids enough, but even babies, you are teaching babies by what you do with them, how you react to the things they do, right? If a crawling baby goes and tries to stick their finger in a light socket and you pull their hand away, you're teaching them not to do that, right? All of those things. When it comes to teaching in a daycare setting, the focus of the daycare usually is not teaching. Focus of daycare is making sure that these kids stay alive and they stay safe and they're happy-ish, and most expectations are reasonably met, and then you send the kid home at the end of the day, right? Most daycares are not focused on teaching your kids. Now, the individual workers may do their best to teach your child, say, how to tie their shoes or, how to put their coat on properly. But a lot of people working in daycares are college kids or, older women who've already had their kids, and so they're looking for something part-time, but they're not, fully invested. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. Or you'll get sometimes moms who are bringing their own kids too and working while having their kids there as well, which creates an interesting dynamic. But for the most part, not a lot of teaching happens in a daycare, okay? And I have known parents who, almost expect the teaching to be happening in the daycare, like potty training and things of that regard. Usually daycares just continue whatever you're doing at home. So if you're not potty training at home, don't expect the daycare to do it for you, because it's not going to happen. Or if it starts happening, it might start, but it's not going to go all the way through. Like, that's something that is started at home, and then the daycare continues it and tries to build on what you're already doing at home, usually. With a nanny, depending on the nanny you get, will depend on whether or not they are more towards the teaching aspect, like teaching your kid how to say different words, reading books to the kids, as they're learning how to speak and verbalizing, that's a horse, that's this, that's that, teaching to tie shoes, to put shoes on and off, coats on and off, potty training and stuff like that, again, is one of those. It should be done with the parents, and then nannies kind of do what you do. Because depending on how long the nanny is there during the week, they might not have enough time to do that, or to, actually take it on themselves, sort of a deal. They're usually, taking care of the child, but again, as a nanny, the nanny is not going to have the same investment in the child as you do as a parent. So things that you would teach them as a parent, they might not be taught by nanny. Whereas, with a stay-at-home mom, sorry, my nose is just so itchy today, guys. Stay-at-home mom, you know what you want your kid to learn. You're going to be teaching them that at your own pace, whatever pace works for your family. If you want to potty train super early, you have time to do that. If you want to wait and do potty training later, you can do that. Stay-at-home mom, you kind of have, it's in your responsibility, it's in your wheelhouse, it's what you're doing every day by teaching them how to get in the kitchen with you and crack eggs or make breakfast. Honestly, I think one of the best ways for kids to be taught is at home with their moms or with their dads. If their dad is hanging out with them for hours a day and takes the boys out and shows them how to use tools properly and how to do things safely and shows them how to work on the car or whatever else. Children learn best with their parents. They do. They really do. They learn the most from their parents. And usually if they're around their parents a good deal of time, they'll take on their mannerisms, the way they crinkle their eyebrows, their expressions, and things like that. which is very cute to watch. When it comes to actually loving the kids, okay, in a daycare and expressing love to the child so the child feels loved, in a daycare setting, the daycare workers may love your child. They may think your child drives them insane. It depends on the worker and on the child, right? But most daycare workers, if they are worth their salt, they will attempt to show love to the kids. Not all daycare workers are worth their salt, though. You get what you get kind of in a daycare scenario. In a nannying scenario, usually the nanny, of course, is going to try and love on the kids, give the kids that, extra attention that they need, make them feel secure as kids and safe and loved and all of that. It, of course, is not the same as an actual parent-child relationship because, the nanny is not their parent. So the nanny is not going to give them the same amount of love and care that you would as their parent just because it's a different relationship in that way. Whereas with a stay-at-home mom, of course, you love your child, you birthed your child, right? You're going to give them love and attention and love them exactly the way that you feel they deserve to be loved, right? That's how that works. I wanted to give you guys this information just so you kind of have more of an insight on what to do with your kids, just so you can make wise decisions for your family, right? Personally, my personal opinion, okay? This is not something that I would prescribe for every family out there. This is just my personal opinion, all right? Having worked in a daycare and as a nanny, I would not put my child in a daycare unless I literally had no other choice. I wouldn't. I know what it's like on the inside. I know what it's like for the workers, and I know what it's like for the kids. It is not best case scenario ever, because daycares are not run the same way that your home is. Daycares are not set up to be the best for the children. They're set up to make a profit, right? They're set up to be a place where you can drop your kids. They'll stay relatively safe throughout the day, and then you pick them up at the end, but they're not catering to the child's development. They're not catering to, what is best for the child, for each child. And they're not even catering to what's best for the workers. It's not the best case scenario at all. I know that a lot of single mamas don't have any choice but to put their child in a daycare. And if that's the case for you, I would make sure to ask the questions of the daycares around you. Ask what their ratios are, right? Ask about their schedule of what they do during the day. Ask about, playtime versus, just ask what their day looks like and ask what they do for discipline and all of that stuff, because you want the most information you can get to know exactly how your child's doing during the day. For those who are two-parent households, if you at all can, have somebody home with your kid, because the daycare is just not the best. When it comes to nannying, nannies can be useful depending on the nanny. Like, you got to know your nanny. You've got to, again, vet them thoroughly. You've got to know what their views are on discipline, on child rearing, know what experience they have with child rearing, if they have any. Like, a lot of people are college kids who go into nannying and they don't have experience with kids, or at least not very much. Know your nanny, know what experience they have, and again, ask those same questions. Be very clear with your expectations as the parent of what you want your child to, how your child to be trained, what rules are in place, all of that, so the nanny can have clear communication with you. Honestly, the best case scenario for kids is to be at home with a parent if they can. That's literally the best case scenario. It's the healthiest environment for the child. It is the healthiest environment for them to be able to bond with the adults that they need to bond with, to have healthy discipline, to be taught, to be loved, and to get all the attachment and everything that they need. the best case scenario is a stay-at-home parent. Each family does things differently though. So I wanted to give you this information just so you know what's going on. I pray this video blesses you, and I'll see you guys next time.